Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Erika Lozano. I'm marketing at Jurny, and I'll be your host today. If you have any questions at any point during this session, please drop them in the Q&A. You have a section below that says Q&A, so you can add your questions there at the bottom of your Zoom menu. We'll give up like the last 15 minutes for this to answer all these questions, as many as we can. And well, let's get started. I'm joined today by Jason Lopez from Jurny and Cristina Vascil from Turno. Jason, Cristina, welcome.
Thank you, Erica.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome. So you can all see the presentation, right? It should be a photo of Cristina and myself and our Turno and Jurny logo.
Yep.
Perfect. All right, so we're gonna kick things off with just a brief background. Who is Jurny? Who is Turno? And then we'll kind of get into the meat and potatoes. So who's Jurny? We are basically an agentic property management software. Today, we're pretty much known as the pioneers of AI in the industry, but we didn't start that way. We actually started as property managers ourselves. We scaled up to about 300 units under management. And one of the biggest operational challenges for us was disconnected systems. And that's kind of why we set out to start building the platform to begin with. We did take a different approach from other PMSs and didn't open up our system to become a marketplace of vendors. Instead, we handpicked the best-in-class tools, and we created strategic partnerships with those best-in-class providers like Turno. So we're going to talk a lot about our partnership with Turno today, how we are agentic and what that means. But first, I do want to turn it over to Cristina so she can just intro Turno really quick.
Thanks, Jason. So for those of you who do not know who Turno is, very simply, we help streamline the operations turnover process from start to finish. So everything from the scheduling of your turnovers to adding those checklist inventory management capabilities to adding your own cleaners and paying them out within our system to also what we're most notorious for, which is helping hosts in the industry solve a major problem of finding vetted and background checked vacation rental, short-term rental cleaners. So we have a database of over 65,000 cleaners that you can source and add to your team. But we help not only just hosts, but also cleaners in our industry find new job opportunities.
I love it. Awesome. All right. So briefly, you can see the agenda here on the screen. So we're going to talk about the turnover reliability problem, how Jurny and Turno work together. We're going to go a little bit deeper into some of the specifics that we'll cover in the earlier slides, and then how reliability unlocks extra revenue. It's not on the screen, but there will be a short 10 to 15-minute window at the end for Q&A as well.
All right, so I'll kick us off. We're gonna dive into like why being able to rely on turnover operations just becomes increasingly more important as you're scaling your business. As you're scaling your portfolio, the operational side of the business just naturally becomes more complex, and that's where cracks really start to form. What used to just be manageable with just a couple of properties, like coordinating your cleans, checking the overall quality of the turns, following up with your cleaners, just becomes harder to control across dozens or even hundreds of units. Miscleans, last minute issues, inconsistent follow-up, they're not just occasional problems anymore when you start scaling, they just start happening a lot more frequently. And more importantly, they just become harder to catch in time. And the real impact shows up in guest experience, and ultimately in your revenue. And this is where I'll start going into these stats that you're seeing on the screen. But we know that 36% of travelers are choosing where to book based on reviews left about your properties. Listings with higher ratings can drive up to 15% more in terms of RevPAR, and this is actually according to a study from AirDNA. At the same time, 34% of property managers say cleaning issues have already cost them reservations, and 71% of hosts are actively worried about bad reviews. That's coming from a Price Labs Global Host report. So this isn't just about operations being a problem. It is directly tied to visibility, occupancy, and revenue. And as you continue scaling, like your turnover reliability just becomes a critical component for just protecting your performance and maintaining that consistent growth.
These are all super eye-opening. The one to me that is like, wait, what is the 15% higher RevPAR for 4.9s? This is so just for context for anyone listening, this is actually corroborated by Airbnb. I think this comes from AirDNA,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, right, Cristina? It's corroborated by Airbnb's own, like their own internal data. But something interesting also that I read recently is when if you go from like a 4.9 to a 4.8, there's a 20% drop off. I think in if I remember correctly in bookings, like you literally lose 20% of your booking volume just from a 0.1%. So when you're thinking about turnovers, like and what factors into your reviews, cleanliness is by far the number one thing. Like this is a huge, I think, area of focus for hosts and property managers. So
Absolutely.
thanks for sharing this. This was super eye-opening to me. Okay, cool. Well, so we'll talk a little bit about how Jurny and Turno work together. First and foremost, I'm not going to read off the screen. You have the slide here, and we're going to share it later. But I'll just speak to kind of the integration and how it works. First and foremost, we have a very deep integration with Turno, which is not the norm. We'll talk more about that as we get into some of the deeper slides here. But what that means is we can do some cool things that some other integrations and systems can't. And so Jurny, think of it as like your system of record. It's the brain of your business, and Turno is the operational arm of your business. And obviously, the two are connected and talk to each other. So at the most basic level, this allows you to automate your cleanings entirely. Believe it or not, I still talk to PMs every single week that tell me they're sending WhatsApp messages. I don't know if you're also hearing that, Cristina, but
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I was just on a podcast with Host Planet, and the entire thing was me just venting, like, let's stop using WhatsApp.
I still hear it literally every week, and
Yeah.
it always blows my mind when I hear that. So, but more importantly, it allows you to unlock. Once you have a system like this in place, it allows you to unlock some additional kind of levels of revenue that you're going to see on one of the upcoming slides. And then one of the really important things that I want to call out is we have a really special partnership with Turno, actually, where your Turno subscription is already included with your Jurny subscription. I don't know if I'm actually describing that right. So if I'm not, Cristina, correct me.
No, you are.
Okay,
It's free.
perfect. Yeah, it's free. Exactly. So huge opportunity to leverage best in class tools with this setup. So that said, we're going to talk about a couple of different levels of ops here. I thought I was being clever with like, I don't know, Wizard of Ops. Anyway, so the level one operational level here, I'll call the baseline, right? This is what we just talked about. Like you're sending a WhatsApp message or a text message to your cleaner, and you're like, hey, I need you to clean this property tomorrow at 11 a.m. That's level one. Level two is your automated turnovers. You're starting to automate the scheduling using something like Turnover. In my opinion, this is table stakes because doing it the level one way is just so laborious. I don't know why you would continue to do it that way, honestly, when you have the option to just automate it, right? But the real reason you want to automate it is because if you don't, you're leaving money on the table. Once you hit level two, then now you can start looking at level three and level four, where you can actually start monetizing your operations and turning it from a cost center into a profit center. And obviously, you can do that with by just capturing value through like early check-ins, late checkouts, and on the level four that you see, they're selling additional nights like gap nights. So I'm going to talk about how you can kind of do that. I know this sounds nice in theory. A lot of times when I talk to PMs about this, they tell me that sounds great, but like realistically, I can't manage that. It's just too much work coordinating all of that. And so we hear that. And so what you see here is kind of how we solve for that. So you have two platforms, one source of truth, zero gaps. And of course, we're talking about Jurny and Turno here. So I talked about the kind of special integration that we have with Turno. What I mean by that is we have a very strong two-way sync. It's kind of illustrated on the screen here. So what that means is we push updates on reservations into Turno, like late checkouts, early check-ins, additional nights. So if you're modifying reservations in Jurny, a guest added an additional night or they're checking out late, we're actually pushing that new clean time into Turno. So believe it or not, that actually doesn't happen with all of the systems out there. With us, it does, and so that allows you to actually start capturing that additional value through upsells, right? And many times, the really important key here is depending on how your agreements are structured. If you're a property manager managing on behalf of other owners, you want to be really careful about how your agreements are structured, because if additional revenue, for fee revenue, if you don't split that with the owners, then this is just straight to your bottom line. Any upsells that you capture. So it has the potential to be hugely impactful for your business, and can literally be the difference between a super successful business and one that maybe is just barely surviving.
Something I just wanted to add real quick there on, especially with the feature capability of the early check-in and late checkout, that is just so huge because the last thing you want is like your cleaners arriving too early to a property or too late to a property and bumping into the guests that are on there. It can kind of lack that professionalism that I think hosts are really trying to strive for. So that's a big feature that I think is very valuable, not just in terms of more revenue, but also just the brand that you're trying to build.
100%. And I was thinking about this as I was reviewing the the outline, but it was too late to switch it. But so we're talking about like once you've kind of achieved a certain level of like operational like infrastructure and automation through Turno, then you can start unlocking some of this. Christina's going to talk about how you do that on the Turno side in just a minute. But okay, so what we just talked about in terms of like driving additional revenue, turning your operations into a profit center, all of that, it sounds great. But a lot of times what I hear from PMs is it still sounds like a lot of work. Like, how do I know if I have a gap night to sell or an early check-in available that I can accommodate? And how do I even like charge the guest for that? That's where having an agentic system, an agentic operating system like Jurny comes in, with specialized dedicated AI agents that actually are going to do work on your behalf, not just not just like workflows that maybe are trigger based. So you see a bunch of them on the screen here, kind of what the capabilities are. We have over a dozen different agents that do different things, including handling guest communications, upsells, coordinating turnovers through Turno. But on the screen, you can just see a couple of them here. But the impact of that is that it really allows you to start turning those very laborious, like high friction points, like turnovers, guest communications, upsells that maybe you don't have super nailed down right now, into a very tight process, because the AI is just handling it for you based on however you're training it. And an important thing here is that all of our agents are actually learning recursively. So what that means is that they're self-learning and improving just as they're being used. So it's literally like having a team, a staff. You can't see them, but it's a staff. They talk to each other and they work together, just like if you had employees sitting in an office. So very, very powerful stuff. All of this kind of works together to enable everything that we've talked about so far. But again, I don't want to put the cart before the horse. I think we already did that, but you've got to nail down the basics, and Christina's going to talk about the basics right now. There we go.
All right. So for this part right here, so as you're pairing Jurny and Turno together, we really just support in the overall consistency and quality of your properties that you're going to need in the turnover process. If you are not using us today, that's fine. But these are still just tools and best practices I wanted to share so you can consider them in your operations this year, as they really just do help with consistent quality and then scaling your portfolio. So the first thing to consider when you think about consistency and quality is implementing a standardized checklist. This just really helps with overall expectation setting. You need to have a checklist for every single one of your properties. And in some cases, you'll actually have more than one checklist. Like maybe you have a peak season deep clean checklist, or you have like a pool clean checklist. We like to say the more checklists you have, it's actually the better. And the reason just being because once you have your team, clarity really just becomes everything. Checklist, remove ambiguity and the back and forth communication, no WhatsApp. It reduces the chaos and it just helps aligns the teams on overall deliverables. And everyone knows what the definition of done is really supposed to look like. And I just also want to emphasize the importance that with your checklist, you really want to be adding pictures to every single one of your tasks that you assign, just because it helps with that visual on what you're expecting upon completion. So have your cleaner submit a photo for each task upon completion. That just helps with accountability and also giving you an opportunity to check the work without maybe physically being there if you're not able to. And then it should just be considered a red flag if a cleaner doesn't want to do this, or they're not willing to provide any feedback. So another idea on this is you could leave a rental standard property appearance guide to show finished expectations if you don't have an application today that allows you to do photos, is you leaving just a physical copy inside of the rental so your cleaners can kind of go through that and just make sure that it's aligning with it. But if you can upload to a checklist, that's just better. And then finally, with standardized checklists, it's setting the right expectations. Also explain the window of cleaning on how arriving within that window, turning over the property is expected, just to avoid missed cleans or arriving at inappropriate times, which we touched on the other slides. The next point on this that I really want to go into is room by room clarity. So your checklist really should be broken down by every single room of the house to get even more detailed. An example of this is instead of saying like bedroom one or bedroom two, like specify what it is. So say it's a master bedroom, it's an upstairs bedroom with the balcony, it's the backyard patio versus the front patio or the backyard pool. The more detail you can provide on the overall task at hand, it's just better. This can just help prevent miscleans, as well as inconsistency. And then it's just really important because, especially like if you have cleaners that are assigned to more than one property, it just kind of helps with standardizing that. Our
Christina, what sorry, really quick. So one of the questions that sometimes like I get when we're, doing like talking to property managers and stuff, is what's like the right mix? Because so obviously you Turno offers the checklists and then the photos. I think you're going to talk about the photos and timestamps and all that for the proof of work and virtual inspections. But what's like the right balance? Because some people are like, well, I don't want to require the cleaner to take photos of everything because it's gonna like double the amount of time they're spending in the unit cleaning it. But I also like I do want some proof. What's like the right balance? Do you think, have you guys found that like works maybe best?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't think there's like a set number, like 20 pictures or, a picture for every single checklist item. I think the more that you're inside of the property, the more that you have guests arriving and staying inside of your units, you tend to see kind of common like issues arising. So like if you have guests making comments about, I don't know, the kitchen, for example, then I would require my cleaners to take pictures of the kitchen. Just because that seems to be something that keeps popping up in like reviews or comments or questions that guests have. And maybe you don't need pictures of I'll see sometimes they'll do pictures of like how the toilet paper is folded into like a pretty little triangle. Maybe you don't need that. Maybe you need a picture of like the tub actually having the hair removed. Like big things that can really be detrimental to your overall reviews and possible refunds.
I love it. Thank you.
All right. So with that, we'll go into consistency across your properties. This is just a big point, just because it's ensuring nothing is missed and turnovers are meeting those requirements that you're setting in place. Brand is crucial. It's hard to rebuild once it's been damaged, and it just really helps with your guest experience. So consistency across properties, especially like with your checklist and that room by room clarity, all tie in together. And then the last part, which is probably my favorite, is the photos and timestamps. Um, we've touched on this already, but images really just help make sure the property is consistent in appearance every single time. Guests are going to remember like what a property looks like when they book and when they walk in to that first impression. So they're remembering when they walk in, does this align with the pictures that I saw when I made the initial reservation? They remember those things, and it really contributes to the reviews that are being left at the end. So asking your cleaners just to review those images and submit pictures after a task completion can support with the 5-star review. And then additionally, time stamping images protect both you and your cleaner. So this part, we know that guest claims are extremely challenging. You're possibly going to have to do refunds. You're possibly dealing with OTAs and negative reviews. So, photo and timestamping capabilities is just really removing the he said, she said. And also, we know that OTAs tend to lean more towards the guest unless there really is heavy evidence showing otherwise. So it can really just support you in winning that case. And we actually had a host who was able to prevent a $1,500 refund because they implemented photo timestamping capabilities into their workflows. So I'll go to the next slide. Is anyone able to skip to the next one?
Yeah, are you not seeing it?
Yes,
Sorry.
it's showing.
Oh, yes, it is now. Okay, sorry. I think my stuff is freezing. All right, so now we'll talk about the scaling of the operations component. So there's just a couple of points to consider with this as well. We see often that hosts are communicating with their teams through multiple channels, and Jason, you mentioned WhatsApp being one of them, and other avenues of this is you're using your PMS, you're also using text messages. I've seen emails, phone calls, I've even seen Facebook Messenger. And the problem with this is there's zero trace to it when you have so many avenues. So it's just really important to centralize the communication because it's reducing the chaos and I could have sworn we talked about it here, or where was this picture about that one said issue. So you just really need a place to escalate your issues, receive updates and questions that are coming from the field. This is going to just help reduce all of that. And it also just creates a system of record for conversations that you can reference later. And that is going to tie into the problem reporting and maintenance trends. So with that, like have your cleaners report problems and make a note of reoccurring issues. So a good example of this, if your cleaner reports a continued issue with like a leaky faucet or a leaky toilet that hasn't been resolved, you can take all this documentation and the conversations that you're having with that cleaner and actually show that to an owner. And it's going to help that replacement that you're wanting with the property, because I've seen a lot of times that hosts are like, hey, we have this reoccurring issue, but there's no evidence, there's no backing of it, or they don't have everything to kind of prove their case. But now that everything is streamlined and they have that reoccurring stuff, they can just hand it to the owner, and it makes things a lot easier for the owner to be like, okay, we can go ahead and spend that $300 on replacing said issue. The next part, this is also just really important with scaling your operations, is payments and IRS compliance. And I'm more so talking to US hosts for a couple of these things here, but this is just also another really easy way to just streamline your overall business, is automating something that on average we were seeing it takes hosts between 10 to 15 minutes per transaction to pay out their cleaners, which is a lot, especially if you have a lot of turnovers and a lot of properties. So utilize a tool that is helping you just pay them out the moment a turnover is actually completed or you've done said inspection. It just also can help avoid bulk sum payouts if you do forget that. I've talked to hosts where they thought they were paying out their cleaners, and it turns out a month later, the cleaner messaged them and was like, I haven't received my payment. And they had to do a bulk sum payout, and they didn't have that in their budget because they thought they were already paying them. So they used that money for something else on their property. So it kind of made them get into a little bit of a pickle. Um, and one last thing here is if you're using a third-party banking application, it is subject to the IRS, and you can run into issues with like your taxes that maybe you didn't plan on. There's a ton of different platforms, and if you're not using the business version of some of those platforms, they do not automatically handle the kind of reporting for taxes that you'll be needing. That's still going to be on you. And if you're not on top of it, it can just cause issues like back taxes, penalties, and interest fees. So you definitely just don't want to get flagged for a possible audit when it comes to something as easy as paying out your cleaners. And with that, it does tie into clean books. So this is just really important for growing your overall portfolio. You know, organized operations make growth predictable. It's easier to add your properties and cleaners and owners because you're repeating the processes that you already have in place. There is a great partner in the industry called C2G Advisors who focus on vacation rental company acquisitions, and they've even mentioned that, you know, your business appears more stable and trustworthy when you have clean financial records in place.
IRS compliance is, why would anyone want to automate that?
My time in a PMS consulting, I've run into a lot of hosts who didn't prioritize that, so I stress it now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was super informative, Christina. Thank you. So we hopefully, anyone listening in is starting to see the picture. We started out with, why you need to have a dialed in process. We showed once you have a dialed in process, kind of what's possible in terms of, not just having the automated, the operational part automated, but actually turning that into a meaningful part of your business from a revenue perspective. And so what you're seeing, and then Cristina laid the groundwork for, how you do that from an operational perspective. So what you're seeing here now is basically a recap of that. And we talked a lot about, turning your turnovers, a little bit of alliteration there, into revenue centers with, very low hanging fruit like early check-ins, late checkouts, and gap nights. So just to fill in some of like maybe some of the question marks there. In a nutshell, what we do is with our integration with Turno, our AI agents will check your calendar for either available gap nights or an available early check-in or late checkout that can be accommodated. And then it will leverage our AI upsell agent, which is a dedicated agent, to offer that upsell to the guest. And you can do that a lot of different ways. It can be on demand, meaning the guest is proactively asking you for, let's say, an additional night, or it can be trigger based, or it can be, on a schedule. So for a gap night, for example, you could theoretically start offering that gap night to a guest, weeks before they've even arrived. Then you can offer it to the reservation before and the reservation after that gap. You can do that for like a 50% discount and set that up, and then it's all automated from there, right? The AI is offering it, it's charging the guest accepts it, it's updating the cleaning schedule, pushing that to Turno, and your whole process is seamless. And your guest has a great experience because now they were able to extend their stay, or whatever they were trying to do. So in a nutshell, that's how you're driving more revenue. What we've seen, just as like a high level metric for anybody that's interested, is our customers leveraging this particular workflow, like this exact workflow that we just described, are seeing anywhere from 10% to 30% revenue lift, which is obviously massive. When you combine that with the fact that you're dialing in your turnovers to the point that hopefully you're not getting, anything less than 5-star reviews, now you're getting that extra 15% RevPAR because you're at a 4.9. You're driving extra revenue through your turnovers. Like, you're crushing it in your market at this point, right? So that's kind of what's possible when you have a system like this that can really accommodate a smooth and streamlined operation. So hopefully that starts getting some of the gears turning. And I made a boo-boo. I will say we were supposed to ask poll questions throughout, and because I'm sharing my screen, I can't see the Zoom like the Zoom interface, so I missed the poll questions. I'm so sorry for that. Do we want to ask them now, maybe, or?
We did. Do you want me to pull them the results?
Yeah, or maybe just the results if we can share them. I'm sure
I'd love
people
to
are
know the results on negative reviews.
Let me pull that up. So we have the, okay, we have this one.
You ever experienced a negative review because of something clean? Yes, 100%. Okay. It's about right.
that's pretty compelling.
Yep.
So definitely a reason to, tighten up that process. And by the way, guys, that 15% that we talked about, if you go from a 4.9 to a 4.8, is like, if it was me running a short-term rental operation, I would obsess over cleanliness and reviews to make sure that I'm always in that, like, hopefully perfect 5-star range. But that's a huge impact to a bottom line of a business. So
There is functionality inside of Turno that I do really like to share. It is our Airbnb Quality Control Center. So we will actually pull in your reviews from Airbnb and tie it to your cleaners. And so anything below a certain threshold, you can then review all of your reviews and see like, was there a cleaning issue? Which cleaner did that connect with? And then you can use it as corrective feedback to give to your cleaners, or you can kind of use it as a consideration to, okay, maybe I need to find someone who can help me get that 5-star review, or maybe I can enhance my checklist. Like, what are we missing from it? So it's just really great functionality to just improve your overall turnover process from that. And if you don't have Turno, you can still go into your Airbnb reviews and just do it. It's just a little bit more manual.
oh, I love that. I did not know you guys have that, but that is very interesting.
I love it. It's really cool.
I'd love to learn more offline about that, actually. Um,
So we do have some questions. Do you want me to go through those?
yeah.
Yeah.
Did we have any other polls, or was just that one?
We have the other one. Let me share it as well. It was here, the level poll. So based on what you saw, what level are you operating? 100% level 2.
Okay, so mostly level 2. All right, so there's that. I mean, there's good news there. You're not level 1, and there's good news in that there's room for improvement and capturing extra revenue. That's awesome. All right.
I will say just before we go into Q&A on this is you do have um, a free subscription with Turno. So you can definitely get started with just signing up right there. And if you do have any questions, um, you can email our outbound account executive, emily.florence@turno.com, and she can definitely help you out. But again, the great part about the integration with Jurny is it takes less than 5 minutes to get started.
Great.
Yeah, super simple.
Okay, we can start. One of the questions is, how do I best engage cleaners who do not speak my native language?
So we have cleaners from all over the world. Our platform does support with over 9 languages. So there's going to be a cleaner for everyone out there. If you do have just a language barrier, again, the platform is in different languages, which it can help support with that.
That's a good question. I wonder if, yeah, I don't know. I'm wondering if there's a way we can maybe even like have this would be a question offline for us, Christina, but like integrating our messaging into your messaging, maybe. I don't know.
Or leveraging AI to support with that too.
Hmm.
Yeah, we can explore that.
It looks like Chip has a follow-up for you here.
Yeah. Can I send them the app request in their native language?
Yes, you can.
Great.
Because hosts have their own app versus cleaners. So there's two different applications where they can manage everything, and the app is in their native language.
Yeah.
Great
She
question.
just asked how. I think that's answered. Do you have
Yeah,
any?
Chip, maybe we can, Cristina can connect you with whoever on her end can like walk you through specifically how to do that, and we can make sure you get squared away with that.
Yeah, I'll introduce you to Emily, who can kind of walk you through all of that just to make sure. Um, I'll ask Erica for your email afterwards.
Yes.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Um,
Yeah. That's
okay, we'll
that would
make
be
sure we get
great.
okay, and we
Yeah,
have
I will share it too. Thank you. Thank you so much.
perfect.
Um, okay, so next question. If a reservation changes last minute, early checkout, extension cancellation, does that update reflect in the turnover workflow?
It does, yes. So I always hesitate to say that like we're the only ones that do that, but I think we're one of the only ones that do that. But yes, if there's ever an update to the reservation, check-in, check-out date, check-in time, check-out time, anything like that, we always sync it. So it's always updated on Turno's end. Yeah.
Great. Next question. Do I need to connect Turno to Airbnb OTAs directly, or is Journey the source of truth?
Jurny is going to be your source of truth, so there's no need to.
Okay. Next question. How do you handle cleaner cancellations or no shows without the day turning into a chaos?
Great question. So we have something called the Turno Cleaner Guarantee. So if there is a cancellation, if there's a no-show, if you are not satisfied with the clean, we will actually give you a credit of up to of $100, and we will help you find another cleaner that's going to meet your expectations and also be there on time. So if you ever need any assistance with that, you can just reach out to our support team. We're available 24/7. We have a response time in less than 2 minutes, but we can help you apply that policy and then also just help you find the right cleaner for you.
Great. We have another questions. I am also interested to learn about Journey workflows for gap night and early late check-ins. I'm not doing this yet. Upsells.
Okay. We can also we have your email, Chip, so we'll make sure that you'll get two communications on post webinar. I just
Yeah,
forgot what the word was
masterclass.
for like
We have a
post
masterclass.
webinar. From one from Turno and one from Journey, and we'll get you squared away on both of those fronts.
Yes, yes. Super. That's great. Thank you. This has been very informative. Super.
Thank you. We're glad you got some value out of it.
Yeah.
Any
Sorry.
no, go ahead.
No, I was going to continue with the questions. I don't know if you.
Go for it.
Okay. Can I keep my existing cleaners or do I need to change my team to use this workflow?
You can keep your existing cleaners. So if you're happy with the cleaners you have today, that's totally fine. You can invite them to Turno and then manage them through there. And if you want new cleaners, that's when you can also use just the additional marketplace tool that we have to help you find new cleaners. So it's completely up to you. You can even use a mix of it. If you have your own cleaners and want backup cleaners, you can do that as well.
And I think another, how do upsells work and what kind of upsells typically convert best? I think that's for Jason.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, the lowest hanging fruit, especially in this context, is the ones that we've talked about: early check-ins, late checkouts, additional nights. Additional nights is one that I think more like a lot of people focus a lot on the early check-ins, late checkouts, but additional nights are actually, I would say, like where you should maybe start because it's a little bit easier operationally. Usually, you're offering it, weeks in advance as opposed to like the night before. So it's just less of a burden on your operations and actually could be more more profitable, right? Like you can sell an additional night for 50% off. That's typically going to be more than what you would sell an early check-in or a late checkout for at like, 25 or $50. So those are the low-hanging fruit. We've seen some really creative things though. There was a customer we worked with recently that has a bakery downstairs, and so they went downstairs, talked to the owner, and set up a partnership so that all of their check-ins can have fresh baked like muffins when they arrive, and so you can get really creative once you have the right tools in place to allow you to just leverage the kind of ecosystem around you. When people are traveling and they're staying with you, their accommodation budget, it is a large portion of their budget, but they're spending money doing other things, and you can capture some of that as well. So
Awesome. We have one final question is, how do you handle multi-property teams across different cities with different cleaners and standards?
All of that can still just be managed in Turno, just because you can add properties from all over. It doesn't have to be, just in one certain area. But you can then assign those cleaners to those said properties, and through their own Turno app, they'll then receive all of that and then all of the communication as well. So it's super easy. It doesn't matter where you're located.
Awesome. I don't know if anybody has any more questions.
That was a lot of questions.
Yeah.
yeah, it was a good amount.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think if there are no more questions, we can wrap it up. We appreciate everyone joining today and sitting in. Hopefully learned a few things and got some value here. And Cristina, anything, if anyone is interested in checking out Turno, where can they, I know we're on actually showing the screen here, but turno.com or?
Yeah, you can just go to turno.com. You can reach out to our support team. You can ask for me. My email is pretty easy. It's just christina.vascil@turno.com. But we'll also just follow up with everyone from the webinar in case you guys do need anything at all.
Great.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.